Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a Gran Selezione Chianti. So this is Ruffino's Riserva Ducale Oro. It's a Chianti Classico Gran Selezione 2016. Now, Ruffino are a large company with holdings both in Tuscany and predominantly in Veneto, but in northern and central Italy. The company was founded in 1877 by two cousins, Ilario and Leopoldo Ruffino, and they built the company up, and by 1890 they were official suppliers of wine to the Italian royal family. In 1913 the company changed hands, and after the First World War they started buying estates. Initially in Chianti, but in fact they were to become the first company to own estates both in Chianti Classico, in Montepulciano and in Montalcino. The company's changed hands a number of times, but in 2011 it was bought outright by Constellation, who'd previously held a 40% share since about 2004. Currently they have 6 estates in Tuscany, with a total of about 600 hectares there, and 2 estates in the Veneto with about 130 hectares of vines there. Riserva Ducale was first produced in 1927, and the Riserva Ducale Riserva Oro was first made in 1947. In 2013, when the law changed to allow Chianti Gran Selezione to be marketed, the 2010 vintage of Riserva Ducale Oro became a Gran Selezione and has been made as such since. It's a wine that's only made in the best vintages, sourced from 2 estates, the Gretole and the Sant'Adamo estates, and they both lie in the Castellina sub-region of Chianti Classico. The wine is made by careful selection, but I should say there's quite a large production of this. In a good vintage they will make somewhere in the region of 500,000 bottles of Riserva Ducale Oro. Anyway, careful selection goes on in the vineyard. At harvest everything's hand-picked. In the winery, fermentation takes place in temperature regulated stainless steel tanks. The different plots are all vinified separately. Fermentation takes about 10 days with the use of both punching down and pumping over to ensure extraction. There may also be some délestage, some rack and return being used as well. Following fermentation, there will be a further 10, maybe 11 days of maceration subsequent to that. At the end of maceration, the wine is racked out of the stainless steel and put into cement vats, where it will undergo its malolactic conversion, and it will stay there for a year. To be a Gran Selezione, you have to age for at least 30 months. This wine will age prior to bottling for 36 months. So it spends the year in cement vats, as I've just said. Will then go into 1,000 to 2,000 gallon Slavonian oak casks, so they're seasoned oak and large, so will have a very gentle influence on the wine, simply allowing it to slowly oxidize and for the tannins in there to polymerize. The final year of aging, the wine is transferred into smaller cooperage, so these are barriques and tonneaux. Again, these are old barriques and tonneaux. They're normally 4th fill casks. And once the wine is finally bottled, it will spend 3 to 4 months aging in the estate cellars before release, simply to allow it to marry in bottle completely. The blend of this is always predominantly Sangiovese, normally about 80–85%. I believe in 2016 it was 85% Sangiovese, and the balance of that 10% is Merlot, and that's quite a normal constituent both for this wine and for Chianti these days. And I believe in 2016 the balance, the remaining 5%, was a traditional Chianti variety called Colorino, which in the past used to be put into Chiantis to ensure that the colour of the wine was good, perhaps at a time when it was harder to ripen the Sangiovese than people find now. Looking at the details for this wine in 2020, I see the Colorino has been replaced by Cabernet Sauvignon, so presumably that's been phased out now, and Merlot and Cabernet will make up the balance alongside the Sangiovese in this wine. So let's have a look at it, shall we? Start by taking a look at the colour there. It's a nice vibrant ruby colour actually. It has quite a lustre to it. It's not, however, particularly dark. I can see through it reasonably well, so at best a medium intensity of colour there. Swelling it, the wine has 14% alcohol according to its label, and is throwing some quite heavy and quite obvious tears there. Let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? It's a very complex nose. There's some lovely, lifted, delicate, almost floral aromas there. There's quite vibrant, juicy fruit, but then there's also a note showing the oak in there. There is perhaps a slight dustiness. Little touches of cedar and hints of sweet spice. Perhaps what I'm also seeing there is a little bit of development, but the vibrancy of the Sangiovese seems to be lifting that quite nicely. I suppose the aromas that are most obvious are those sort of lifted violet and lovely fresh red cherry notes. So let's taste. That's very classically Sangiovese. From the outset, there's mouth-watering acidity. The wine's weight is at best medium. It's a very fine structure. There are very grainy tannins with tiny touches of sort of cedar and sweet spice on the front of mouth. But all that's being overpowered by the lifted, fresh, red cherry notes of the lovely, vibrant Sangiovese fruit predominantly coming through there. Perhaps that's supported and rounded out by a little bit of the Merlot notes later on. And the tannic structure is good and firm. There's a drying note to it, almost giving a sort of a slight peppery spice note. And behind the fruit, there are slight notes of development, you know, slight forest floor, dried leaf notes. But in fact, they're not forcing their way through, because this sort of juicy, lifted, elegant, lively red cherry fruit, it is right to the fore and it's dominating the wine at the moment. And I'm making that sound as if it's simplistic. It's not. It's what's to the fore, and then there are the layers of structure and aging behind it. And actually, you start to see it more on the finish, where the structure starts to show a little, and the fruit, I suppose, becomes a little more sort of dense red plum sort of notes, rather than the sort of lifted, quite ethereal red cherries that have been at the start of the palate. As I say, the wine's probably not more than mid-weight. There's not a sort of a huge concentrated mid-palate, but there is good structure there that's making the wine last really nicely, and the acidity keeps it right through to the end. The other thing to mention is the alcohol. The 14%, it's not particularly dominating the wine. Again, the freshness and the vivacity of the fruit are balancing that really nicely. So I don't think I'd suggest that this is possibly the best Gran Selezione Chianti that you'll come across. I think this is a really nice example of top quality Chianti. It's got finesse, it's got elegance, it's got length. This clearly has a wonderful freshness that will give it the ability to age for 10-15 years at least, and probably longer. You know, the structure is very fine, it's elegant, but it's certainly not lacking. I think with the right food this would work really nicely straight away. It's got a lovely acidity, the fruit's keeping the tannins nicely in check, and it's going to continue to gain greater complexity and to smooth out even more and become more sort of silky smooth as it ages over a period of time. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found the video of interest. If you have, do please press the like button, that would be fantastic. Do consider signing up and following us on YouTube. It'd be lovely to have your support. Any comments you have, please leave those in the box below. We'd really like to get your feedback on the wines we're looking at, tastings we're doing, or anything else related to that. Do also consider sharing the video with your friends if you think there's anybody else who might be interested in watching it. But most importantly, do please try and find some time and come and join us for another tasting in the very near future, won't you? Thanks again. Bye for now.